Welcome to the Gigless Podcast Season 2, a podcast showcasing the works and talents of those who lost their gigs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This podcast will feature a range of creatives from the tri-state area who are young visionaries and who contribute to their craft despite the recent events that have happened. Join us today as our host Remi Leibovic speaks with Laura Morillo, a New Jersey-based artist whose works are influenced by her heritage, culture, and anime. Her main goal as an artist is to help represent the BIPOC and LGBTQ communities in her work, while inspiring the younger generation to connect to them as heroes and role models. Her work can be viewed on her Instagram, which will be featured in the show notes of this episode. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Gigless Podcast. Today we have our guest, Laura Morillo, and I am your host, Remi Leibovic. And yeah, hi, Laura.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Okay, so after a few technical difficulties, we finally started to play this episode. But so, Laura, I've known you for many, many years. You're a very, very talented artist. You're a very talented illustrator.
Thank you.
And I know that you specialize in portraiture. So as we have been slowly emerging from quarantine, and now it's winter, it's currently December 8th, 2020, as we're recording this, we might be going back into like a quarantine-like environment soon, just with everything that has been going on lately. What are some of the projects that have come out of this time for you, just to start off?
You know, it's funny, a lot of people I've noticed have come up with, their, Shakespearean type projects throughout this, but I've actually taken this moment, like the whole quarantine process, the whole pandemic, to kind of hit a restart button. I went back to my basics because I realized that prior to this, I was making work for other people for a very long time, with college and stuff. I'm 2 years now, 3 years out of college, 2 years, Jesus. But even then, after college, my life was just about making work for other people, whether it was commissioning pieces or like teaching and stuff like that. I wasn't really making stuff for myself. So quarantine, I really took the time to like kind of stop all that. I stopped taking commissions altogether, and I just kind of try to work on personal projects, work on things for myself. And the projects have straight up just been, I've been working on, I want to say, 2 short little comics here and there, and I haven't really released any of that stuff out into the world yet. Mainly because they're my babies and I don't really want to share them with the world yet. I'm not ready. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing, that and just going back to doing stuff for art's sake as opposed to because someone asked me to do something.
Well, that's an excellent reason, to make work for yourself, especially we've had these discussions with primarily artists on this show before, that when you start making things for yourself again, especially postgraduate, what a lot of people that don't go to art school don't know is the fact that, like, yes, all your skills, everything that you basically do is for other people. So when you start being able to take control of your own artwork, like I'm personally going through that right now too, where I'm trying to like reclaim my style, reclaim how I draw, reclaim my process postgraduate. It's been very, it's been a process, it's been enlightening, but it's great to come back to that like reason about why I'm doing this.
Yeah, I know. I feel like a lot of things that ended up happening was I realized that I was putting up excuses to sit down and actually work. Like a lot of excuses where I would just be like, oh, but I'm not really in the right mental space. Whereas when I was younger, I didn't need a mental space to like just sit down and do art. I just did it for, the sake of doing it. I was not trying to set time aside. Whatever time I had, I was doing art. So I realized that I was no longer doing that. I was taking much longer pauses and breaks in between working on projects, and it just doesn't feel right. As an artist, you're basically expected to create all the time, and for an artist who wants to and feels the need, like it's like breathing air, you gotta create. And I just didn't have that anymore because I was doing it for other people, and I realized I needed to put a stop to that instantly.
Right. And I mean, the Disney mural in your old bedroom definitely raised your property house values. So, like, let's just be flat out about that. But, you know, I've noticed that I know a lot about you just as being your friend for so long. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit better to our listeners?
Oof. My name is Laura. I am I think 24 years old now. Oof. That sounds like a weird age, but I mean, what do I say?
It is.
Yeah, it is a weird age, right? Because you're not like quite there yet. You're not quite old enough to be an adult yet. So I'm in this weird place, and then quarantine happened and put a pause on everything. I feel like this year has just been a blur. But honestly, I mean, what can I say about myself? I've been creating art since I can remember. I went to school for painting and realized that, dang, maybe I want to do comics instead at a really late stage. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just, yeah, making some illustrative work now.
So you went to Montclair University, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you were one of the last of those to graduate with a painting major.
Yeah, Montclair kind of messed up with that. They realized that they weren't getting a lot of painting majors, so they decided to cut the program and focus more so on the illustration and animation departments, which is what, to my understanding, is going on now.
Right. So, you know, you talked about how COVID kind of flipped everything on its head. What happened to you? Like, and how has your work shifted from, like, how have you adapted basically to this whole great pause and this kind of just like shift that kind of ruptured the art world?
I mean, so I know that before COVID, after graduating from college, I feel like going out into the world, you end up doing a bunch of really random gigs here and there. And you often find these gigs straight up just talking to people, hanging out with people. And COVID has definitely put a pause to that. I haven't done, like, I remember right before COVID, I had a couple things lined up. Like, I had a couple shows that me and my friends were going to put together. And some people reached out to me to do some shows as well, like some gallery shows and stuff. And those obviously had to be put to a halt completely. And there's also the fact that, like I said, I've been trying to reemerge myself as an artist in this comic book world, trying to step a little bit away from the fine art world. And what I've noticed is that it's easy to get in the right mindset when you no longer have external distractions, but it's also really difficult to network and to find a place to showcase your stuff, especially when you're beginning. I remember I had convention season starting, and I was going to actually, for the first time ever, showcase my art in a convention. And COVID kind of told me I'm not ready yet. COVID literally said, you know what, girl, you need to take some time to hone your skill, I think, because you're not ready for this. So I wasn't able to do that. There was a couple things like that that it got just put on hold, and that was kind of frustrating. You know?
Right. No, I completely understand how you feel. A lot of people that have been on the show, a lot of guests have said that, you know, there was a lot of things lined up that just ended up being canceled because of this, and conventions were definitely one of them. So you are a Dominicana, and
Yeah.
your artwork has, at least with the latest things that I've been seeing, thank you, Instagram algorithm, I have to physically go and search for you. If you want to shamelessly plug your art Instagram, you are welcome to do so now.
It's literally _Lara Morillo _. So
Right.
Yeah, no. You were saying. So sorry.
No, it's just that a lot of your artwork has been influenced by your culture,
Mm-hmm.
your what's it called? Your culture and those around you. Like, for example, like you really like anime. You can clearly see that here. You have braids on right now, but I know that you have a huge afro. And you can see that that carries within the characters of your work. So if you want to give thank you, Instagram, for letting me know that she finally drew an Afro samurai like character. Got a double tap because the algorithm has been
Won't show it
putting
to you.
things up for artists for a while
Oh
now.
yeah, the
So
algorithm has been insanely ridiculous. Like it's so frustrating trying to get anything on Instagram going. But yeah, no, I'm heavily inspired by my heritage and stuff as a person of color. I grew up pretty much only ever seeing like in comic books, in cartoons, anime. You don't really get to see a lot of representation for POC, and it's a shame. But we can't. All we can do is learn from our past and move forward. So I try my very best to have as much representation for the POC community, the queer community. I want everyone of all shapes, colors in my stuff because I didn't see that growing up. I wanna, you know what it is. My main goal in life as an artist is I want little kids like when I was a kid, I would read these comics. I want little kids to read my stuff or see my art and say, "Oh my gosh, look, it looks just like me." I've never, I want that to happen. I want kids to experience that. I want people to see themselves in my work. I want people to be able to say, "Oh dang, like, this got some flavor, some sazon and shit." Like, Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to.
you could say, you could curse. It's fine.
I'm here like I'm trying to censor my potty mouth, but no, that's literally what it is. I want people to see themselves in my work, no matter what you know background you come from. Because I didn't see myself in these comics. I didn't see these strong female characters growing up. I didn't see POC characters growing up, and if I did, it's like it was the same three. So I just that's
Who are the
yeah.
same three to you?
Literally like Storm.
Man, so many people got angry at me at the end of Black Panther. I left the theater. I was like, man, I can't wait till Storm kicks her butt. And everybody was like, what? All these people that went to go see Black Panther but like didn't read the comics or didn't watch X-Men
Didn't know that
Origins.
Storm
They
is a
were
big
like, I was like, yeah, Storm and Black Panther have a child together. He's in the little X-Men, and yeah, dude, he was like hidden away. Like he was like Wakanda's biggest threat and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it would be nice if they incorporate that, but also at the same time, we already got to see Storm. I want to see more. That's what I'm saying. Like all
Didn't
I
see Mohawk Storm.
Honestly,
Didn't see Mohawk Storm.
we did not see Mohawk Storm. But no, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like and we got Haley Berry as Catwoman. That was like the third one that I remember growing up with, and we don't talk about that because that
Big
was
yikes.
right. Oof, there's so many things wrong with that. But no, that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't really get to see a lot of POC, and I didn't get a lot to see a lot of strong women either. And oh man, let's not even talk about like any queer characters. Right now I can't even think of a single character that pops up to mind, like comes up to mind.
Well, you and your own comics.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I do draw myself quite a bit. Actually, it's funny because like I stopped drawing myself altogether when I was younger because I had like, oof, I had this thing where I was like, I do not want to draw myself because I do not want to stare at myself all the time. That is weird. But yeah, no, this year I've actually been drawing myself so much, mainly because of COVID, actually, because it's kind of hard to find models. It's kind of hard to find people and say, hey, can I draw you? Because like,
You could draw me
I
anytime.
I got you, bro. But no, it's really hard to just randomly ask people, especially like something I used to do regularly was just draw from life and just like sit in the train or like in a park and just draw people. That's kind of not as common anymore. So I started drawing myself a lot, like a lot. Yeah.
Have you found that it reconnects you with yourself by doing that artistic practice?
It gives me the ability to cosplay without wearing makeup.
You don't need makeup though. I know that none of you guys can see her right now, but Laura has extremely clear skin. Laura has never been like an acne prone person. She's always had like flawless, like smooth
Thank you. I really
skin.
no, but the thing is that like you want to look more like your favorite characters. It's kind of hard to cosplay when you don't have like red eyes and whatnot. Like it's so I mean stuff like that. Like I don't have to wear an entire garment to be able to see myself as the characters. One of my favorite characters that I drew myself as was like Nezuko from Demon Slayer because I freaking love her aesthetic as a character. She's so cute, very wholesome, 10 out of 10.
That's my
And
whole. I
right,
love
she's
that in
so
anime.
cute.
I
She's
read
so
when
yeah.
the series ended. I literally went online and read the whole manga. Like
Yeah.
within a few days, that thing was done. I was
Yeah, no, honestly, it's a good the art style. Listen, magnifique. I mean, but yeah, so like I was like I would never have the energy to cosplay in this girl's attire. I do not have that in me. But now if like I could just draw myself. So yeah, that's mainly what happened. I realized that I can see myself in my cosplay dreams now. Now that I draw myself more. And I also did learn that I stylize certain things in my art. And I noticed that when people would hit me up like, girl, you got eyebrows that thick? And I'm like, absolutely not. I don't have eyebrows. But my drawing version of me, listen, sis got the only eyebrows, bro. She looking out here like a schnack. Like I noticed that I do that.
You have eyebrows. I have eyebrows. You have eyebrows. I can confirm.
I mean, if you've seen my sister, she's got eyebrows. Me, I just yeah.
Well, your sister got the thickness on the eyebrows, but you still got the wholesomeness on the eyebrows. You're both very blessed with eyebrows. And I just want to bring that into, we're talking about the features that you're putting on your characters. And if anybody's following along here and you visit her Instagram page, one of the things that you as an artist, specifically as a comic book artist and as an illustrator, with bringing these characters to your book, with bringing these characters to life, one of the things that you're incorporating is, again, like the Black kind of aesthetic into these animes, like themes and stuff, because we could bring up the very problematic issue with the Forgotten Neverland with that character for sure.
Man, and the show was so good too, but she just had the we don't talk about that.
Character on that show that's so problematic, and that brings up the conversation that when we were talking a lot earlier, we talked for like 3 hours before recording this to catch up on things, but one of the things that was mentioned was anime and blackness, and basically how there's these issues when it comes to trying to do like crossovers. Like instead of actually hiring a Black artist, it usually is conceptions of a creator, and they're projecting onto a character of which they have no experience.
Yeah, not only that, but they tend to do the stereotypical features. They do the whole like, oh yeah, Black person has big lips or whatever. So they do the really weird round lip thing that and then on top of that, the skin always looks pasty. It's never like an actual decent color. It's usually like a really like a chalky brown color. The hair is always a mess. They always look like, the stereotypes and stuff that they're not even, they don't make any logical sense. So I mean, I know, and it still happens today, which is so weird because it's like by now, listen, Google is free. By now, you could literally just look up shit, if you really need to, shit, why not hit up a person of color and just be like, hey, so I want to add some spice to my anime. Please help me. Like, you could easily do that. And there are some creators who actually have gotten the hang of it. For example, Fire Force. Oh man, like the art in that show, top tier. But like the fact that they have genuine POC characters who look different, like they all have like POC features without it being racist, and that's so like refreshing to look at. You know, they have like the hairstyles that look genuine. They don't do like the weird 2-3 pigtail things that are just really fuzzy. No, like homie out here got braids. He got a nice fresh cut. Like the lips aren't ridiculous. Like, you know, that's how you're supposed to do it. The art style doesn't change just because the character is black now. The art style is still the same. It just, they changed the feature slightly so that it makes more sense for, you know, someone from a different culture. And I get that. It's so simple. Sometimes it's as simple as that. So the fact that there are still shows out there who have like the very stereotypical look to them is so weird.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's kind of one of the things that we were talking about earlier, is that we need more people who have different backgrounds into the art space, especially when they're setting narratives and trying to visually storytell. Because how are you going to appeal to a certain audience if you don't even know how that audience is going to perceive something?
And the thing is that it's not even like if, you know, there aren't black anime fans or, you know, brown anime
There's a
fans.
huge market.
Right. I mean, it's gotten so huge that there have been anime created specifically by black people for black people. The Boondocks, one of the most popular examples of this. Such an incredible show. The plot is great. You know, it's great humor. It has incredibly well written characters. The art style phenomenal. So it's just like, you see, it's not like there isn't. It's not like there isn't a fan base for this. So clearly, if there's a fan base, there are also people who, one, grew up with it, and two, do this work as well. There are so many black artists that I follow that they all stylize in anime. Like that's what they're specialized in. It's manga, anime. Oh, I said that really like manga.
Right. And I want to hold on, and I just want to throw in on that. There is a problem, I feel like, with art schools, because when I was applying to art school, I remember being at an orientation for a certain school in New York City, and they're like, if you have anime in your portfolio, we're automatically rejecting your portfolio.
That's messed up. I don't like that.
How does that, like, I understand the reasoning behind it, that it's like every anime character has a baseline, you know, design, but I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, especially when we're talking about like art as accessibility?
You see, I'm a firm believer in, if you like it, then you should pursue it to the best of your ability. I grew up reading a lot of comics, right? I was also heavily influenced by anime as a kid. You know, Studio Ghibli was a big part of my childhood. But I didn't necessarily get into manga and anime until, I want to say, like middle school, high school, and stuff like that. But because of that, I remember that my style was more so geared towards comics. Why is it that that's not an issue, but anime is, manga style art is? And the thing is that it's not like if you can't create some incredible pieces, going back to Demon Slayer, the art style in that show is insane. Like, they, above and beyond, anytime they animate one of the scenes where they do, like, you know, the breathing formations, like it's mind-blowing how much detail goes into that. It's not an easy job. It's not. And then there's the fact that I read a lot of Korean manhwas and stuff like that. And that's another thing. It differs so heavily from Japanese culture versus Korean culture versus Chinese culture and all that stuff. How they draw is completely different, and their styles are so different. So like, for you to say that anime is not accepted as an art style for animation or illustration is, it's at this point, it's just a sour excuse. It low-key feels racist at this point, because it's just as valid as
American style
cartoon. And
comics.
yeah, exactly. It's just as valid as the cartoon industry and the comic book industry.
Right. And, so as someone that is dealing with living through quarantine, living in isolation, I know that you have um, immunocompromised family at home.
Yeah.
How have you been getting gigs? Have you had any gigs since this whole thing? Have you done online streams, commissions?
Well, like I said at the beginning of this year, I kind of decided to put on hold on, well, not a hold, but like a refresh on how much stuff I make for other people. So I actually, it was around the same time that the pandemic started, to be honest. So I can't even remember if it happened before or after. But I stopped taking commissions altogether because I just want to make work for myself. And since then, I've actually just trying to avoid making stuff for other people, just because again, I want to make it for myself. As far as gigs go, there was a lot of things that I had lined up, and I just could not get them because a bunch of places closed down, like conventions stopped going on and stuff. But people have reached out to me for commissions. People have reached out to me to be part of projects, and the only one that I actually said yes to in this year was I worked with a close friend of mine in the beginning of the year to do an album cover for him, and that's pretty much the only thing I've done. Just because of the fact that after that I wanted to stop making
Who
stuff
was
for other
the,
people.
do you mind plugging them? Who was
Oof,
the
I don't
band?
remember, I don't remember the name of the album, but
It's
he
okay,
goes
it'll
by
be in the show notes.
he goes by Orange Joe. He's lovely. You guys should listen to his music. He's such a great person. Oh man, 10 out of 10. But yeah, no, it was, yeah, other than that, I didn't want to make stuff for other people because I just felt like making stuff for other people was exhausting at this point. So I have turned down a few gigs here and there, but mainly it's been mostly just again art shows that I was going to be a part of and I couldn't do because of COVID anyways, and some commissions that I could not focus on.
Right.
Hmm.
So what is your daily routine now, or your day job? Like, what are you doing to get by, or like what's your setup initially right now?
Uh, well, basically, right now, how I'm getting by is how most of America's getting by, which is with unemployment. If it wasn't for unemployment, I'd be absolutely screwed. But other than that, I don't, other than bills, I've never been the type to do very much. So I don't really spend money. So I get to save as much of that as possible, other than, like I said, bills that I have to pay. And I've just been, like I said, my daily routine consists of drawing as much as I can in the day. I take care of my mom who got sick recently back in August. So I've been pretty much, my routine has been that, trying to focus on making sure her health is in check, making sure my health is in check, and working on my own stuff. That's pretty much it. I'm not the type to, when the world started opening up again, I wasn't the type to instantly go out there. I'm very introverted as a person, so I'm enjoying. I mean, it's hard to say you're enjoying anything during these times, but I'm
No, you can
enjoying.
find joy in the small.
Yeah, I'm enjoying being able to just take time for myself, which is something I haven't been able to do in years. So.
Well, you said that you went and you got your undergraduate as a BFA, and one of the biggest things right now, and especially like a lot of people are like, they're pursuing a certificate program or they're pursuing their master's. As an artist, especially as an illustrator, do you think that you will be pursuing like graduate school, or is that in the works for you?
Man, grad school was in the cards from the moment I graduated, and like just life got in the way. Like I suffered a really crappy injury back in 2019, and that put a hold. And then once I finally got back on my feet, COVID happened, so that got put on hold for another year. And especially now with online schooling and how that's working out, it just doesn't even make a lot of sense to start a grad program altogether,
For art.
because yeah, for art it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I know that the people who I interact with that either one are teaching art or taking art courses, they all say the same thing. It just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel right. So I'd rather wait until like the world comes back to a safe spot so that I can go back to grad school. But yeah, no, that is the plan. I still would like to go back to school. I feel like a lot of people who did the school thing kind of would disagree with me, saying that school is not necessary. And honestly, I don't think it is 100% necessary to go to school if you're an artist. I feel like a lot of the things that you learn in school are more on the negative end of the spectrum than the positive end of the spectrum.
Especially
But
if you're a woman.
that's
Color.
valid.
Or
But the thing is that there are just certain things that it's hard to have access to unless you have, like, for example, I only got my first drawing tablet. I do digital art, and I got my very first drawing tablet this year. I've been using an iPad since I graduated from college, and I use Procreate. Like that's not professional level. It's Procreate is a great app. iPad is has been my child for so long, and I love that thing. But it doesn't produce professional level work. No one will take you serious unless you have a professional drawing tablet. And I got my first one this year. And
what did you get?
I I got a Wacom tablet, Wacom one,
Okay.
and yeah, it's
I have a
such a cute
bamboo one. It works
Oh,
just
okay.
fine.
Yeah,
So
I love it. It's so nice. And that's the thing. Like, those are certain things that I had access to when I was in school that I would not have access to. Then there's also like internship programs that only get, given to you if you are in that kind of community. So that's mainly why I want to go back. I feel like you know, it. I like the structure, to be honest.
I do too.
I miss the structure.
That's what a lot of my friends and I have been talking about, is how we don't necessarily miss the classes, but we
No.
miss the fact that you could walk into a studio and everybody was working on something,
Yeah.
and you kind of just caught the vibe of, okay, it's time for me to work. Whereas when you're home and time is a human concept, and you're just like, I can do it later. 3 months.
And that's another thing with COVID. I feel like a lot of people experience this weird like time warp thing where time doesn't even feel right. I remember the first couple months, me and my friends, like, we all talked about how 3 a.m. was the new midnight and like 5 a.m. was the new 3 a.m.
Oh
and
yeah,
it just felt
there was
so
a time
weird.
period. My sleep schedule got so messed up. I was going to bed. I don't even know what time I was going to bed. I just remember that I would wake up, even if I went to bed early, like let's say I went to bed at like 9:30, I would wake up at 10 a.m. the next day. And I was like, what?
Yeah, and the thing is that I already had a crappy sleep schedule before this, but now I'm just like, if I don't go to sleep with the sunrise, who am I as a person? So I feel like that's one of those things where when the world opens up again, I'm hoping that some kind of structure like comes back. That's main reason. That's one of the main reasons why I want to go back to school, to find that sense of structure again, because I feel like especially after COVID, like out the window. Time, like you said, social construct.
Right. So has there been any lack in materials for your work, or are you just primarily using your Wacom tablet and your iPad?
Yeah, I mean, when I used to paint regularly, this would be an issue because paint is expensive and it's kind of like, when all the stores were closed, it would have been difficult. But because, yeah, I've been primarily doing digital work, I haven't found myself having a hard time finding materials because I'm the type of person that I'm either sketching in straight up just plain sketchbook, regular ass pencil and shit, and that's me. Or if not, I'm on my tablets. So like, I've never had an issue just drawing on anything, even if I didn't have all these materials available to me. If I needed to, I'd find a napkin, I'd write with like whatever pen I had available. That's never been an issue for me.
Right. And we're surprisingly already in the last, like, basically in the last 10 minutes of our interview.
Okay.
As it goes by so fast, right?
Yeah, it is.
And because we've talked so much about so many different things, and one of them that I want to ask you specifically about is, we're talking about access.
Mm-hmm.
Would you open up to doing something on Webtoons or having your own website for your comics? Or what is something that you have in the future? Will you go print? Will you stay online?
Yeah, I mean, right now I feel like one of the goals is probably to stay online, just because, especially with COVID, I've learned that the internet is your best friend. So I would like to. I mean, I did say that I'm kind of secretly working on a few things, and the goal is to actually maybe do some webtoon stuff. Something that I realized during this pandemic is that I have been reading so much manga and manhwa that it's ridiculous, and I'm like, dude, I could be doing this too, you know? I
Yeah,
could easily just, you know? So that is definitely a goal in the future, in the near future.
that's definitely a problem
As
for
Yeah,
artists. We get in our heads and we can't do it.
yeah. So I mean, if it comes down to that, I would definitely like to, even if it's not specifically webtoons, but like even if it's not that, I want to start, you know, publishing comics online. As far as print goes, I would like to eventually, but I feel like that's probably further down the line.
Right. And, you know, has has it changed the way that you viewed art or creativity this time? Like, has it changed the way, are you coming back to a place of gratitude? Are you returning to your roots? Like, how are you connecting with your creativity?
Yeah, no, like I definitely, like I said, I hit a reset and I've come to the realization that I need to start making stuff for myself. I need to tell stories that I care about. I know that something that was really a video that was going around a few months ago that was really popular was this old interview with Stan Lee, where he said that when people ask him what it is that gets him to write a story, he said, I just wanted to make stories that I liked, and I figured if I liked them, that eventually somebody else would be similar enough to me and would like them too. And I realized, nah, man, that's really it. Uh, I just gotta do stuff for myself, and I need to make the stories that I want to read. That's mainly. I started noticing again. I've been reading a lot lately, like a lot of comics and stuff, and I realized, man, I feel like there's so many stories that I've just never read yet, and I could just be the one making them.
Right. And, as you were saying, that there's all these different types of styles of manga or manhwa.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things is that, the Latin and Black communities have, there are artists that are making comic book art like that, but for
Mm-hmm.
some reason it gets roped into like American comics. But I don't know if any listener has gone to a comic book store, but there's a lot of indie artwork there. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of indie, you know, um, there's a lot of indie, there's a lot of convention book kind of art there. And it's just like, it is emerging. And I feel like if more of the audience like accepts it and focuses into it, then like it will be able to have like its own genre name and
Yeah,
give like give credit to where credit is obviously due and
see,
show and have a
yeah.
spotlight on those types of creators.
See, I feel like what people forget is that your inspiration and your influence can come in pretty much any shape, way, or form. Not everybody was influenced by American comics. I happen to be influenced heavily by American comics, because that was like the first introduction I had into that kind of world. But there are so many people who grew up strictly on anime, strictly on manga, and that's the style that influenced their art. These are people who their art can be nothing else, even though they come from like the Caribbean or some such shit. Like they are entirely influenced by this Eastern style. So yeah, there's a bunch of people that get swept under the rug who don't get a lot of recognition because they just happen to not be Asian. And I feel like this is a great opportunity to marry two worlds, and not in an appropriative way, because that's never fun, but like in a, I appreciate your culture, I see you, and I want to be a part of the next generation of that. And like I said, there's so many artists that I follow that are doing that right now, where they're making their own stories that are very obviously inspired by anime. Like you can tell in their art style that they grew up watching like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, all that shit. But it's a different thing now. It's their own thing. They took this inspiration and they made it their own. So I feel like, yeah, man, I can't wait to see what the next generation of anime inspired art looks like. Hopefully I get to be a little bit part of that.
Right. So we're actually now in the last like 5 minutes. Do you have any
Yeah.
final thoughts for this episode? I know they go by so fast.
Yeah. No, honestly, I figured it was gonna go by fast. Half an hour is a long time, but yeah, no, honestly, anyone who's listening, I feel like as an artist in a situation like this, depending on the type of artist you are, you can either take this really well or take it really difficultly. That's not a word. You can take it in a very difficult way. Because I know that I have a lot of friends who are photographers and like people who depend on gigs who had a really hard time. Whereas I know a lot of people who are illustrators and animators who took it like a breeze because they get to be at home and do their thing. I know that it really is dependent on each individual person. And I guess the best thing I could say is everything has to be taken with its stride. This isn't a permanent situation, hopefully. Maybe by this time next year, this will be a distant memory. Maybe it won't be, who knows? I can't tell. But I like to take this experience and learn the best I can from it, and I hope everyone does too.
What are some of your daily inspirations that, you said that you can pull inspiration from anywhere? What is something that like maybe what's something that you pulled in for inspiration from today?
Today, oof, man, all I do is watch anime. Like half the time, if I'm drawing, it's either I'm playing some random music or I'm dead ass just watching anime. Like right now, I'm rewatching Inuyasha, like from scratch. So I literally just have it in the background playing, and
The
that
original one,
alone, yeah.
not
Because I
the
wanna,
not the not the kids.
no,
Someone
I actually
kids.
the funny thing is I wanted to rewatch it so I could watch the new one. But yeah, so like stuff like that inspires me. Again, I read a crap load of manga and manhwa, so like every time I read it, I'm just thinking like, ooh, you know what? I like the story, I hear it, but I could always just, it gives me ideas to do other stuff. And then there's the fact that social media is a thing. Anytime I go on TikTok for 5 minutes, I'm just like, wow, there's so many different things I could be doing here, and like I get inspiration from literally everything. But I'd say the most I get inspiration from lately is just anime and stuff.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing to get inspired by, I think. So thank you again for being on this episode of Gigless. I'm so excited that we're going to be featuring you, and I am so excited to hear and see what your new work will be when it comes out.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming because you've been hitting me up about this for so long. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
But yeah.
Time's a human construct at this point. I'm like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I can't control anything. Like again, Gigless is an open door. The Gigless podcast is an open door kind of podcast. And for the most part, if Dane and I do reach out to people, it's because they're people that we know. Yeah. But for the most part, it's just, first come, first serve. If someone wants to be interviewed, they can come on and be interviewed. It's not a big problem. Like, just literally DM us. That's it. Like, it's not a pay to play thing. We're good. We just want to hear your story. So, and we're very glad that we were able to hear your story and your experiences and how you've been resilient in this time.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, I feel like, it's been a really weird time for a lot of people. It's been probably the worst year they've experienced. So I know that it's been a weird time. It's been like I said, I didn't even notice a year went by, and here we are in December.
It is December, or the end of a very long March.
Right, a very, very long March. It was such a year.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you all for listening. Laura, thank you for being
No, I
on.
love
And Laura,
being
can you tell our audience where they can find you?
I
everything.
yeah, oh man, no, I'm honestly mainly just on Instagram and on TikTok. I have underscore Lara Morillo underscore, and that's spelled LAURAMORILLO. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll put the link in the show notes to all of your links. But
Okie dokie.
thanks again for listening to this episode of Gigless. We'll see you again next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dane, take us out.
Thank you for listening to the Gigless podcast, hosted by Remi Leibovic and produced by Dane Wagner. The song used in our intro and outro is Beach Walk by Unicorn Heads. If you enjoyed this podcast, head over to our social media pages at Instagram Podcast and our website, giglesspodcastblog.wordpress.com. There you can find out more about the artist, contact the host and producer, and find out more about our schedule. Thank you.